Is Jane here? Good morning, Jane.
Good morning.
Okay, there you are. Oh, okay, I see you now. All right, let's call the roll because everybody seems to have a lot to do today, and so do I. And we have some important business to do. We have a couple of guests attending today. So John DeWolf.
Here.
Richard Swezak.
Here.
Rob Lewandowski.
Here.
DeAndrea here. Bob Doan.
Here.
Susan Mattern. Muted. But she's here. I see her. You're muted, Susan. And Bob Don.
Present.
I'm here.
I'm here too.
So today, as we get started, I'd like to have Janita give us her report as our first order of business at every meeting.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. There is no new report to present to the engineers and the land surveyors today. I presented the 2-month report at your January meeting. I will be running a new report on March 1st, and we'll have a brand new report to present to you at your March meeting.
Okay. That's good for us.
Yes, so with that, I thank you all for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And have a good day.
You too, sir. Thank you much.
Also, we have a little bit of a time crunch for Ryan, so I'm going to do correspondence in the minutes from our last meeting, and then take on the items that Ryan has reviewed, so we have a full quorum. And by that time, we should be caught up for him. So let's do that. We had a few items of correspondence. Item A1 was a request from NCAAS. At this time of year, they're always looking for qualified professionals with expertise to participate in the committees for the development of the exam. So that's called the PACS committees, and it's the Professional Activities and Knowledge Study. And in this case, they're looking for experts in the structural field. So our two structural engineers, if you're interested in joining a committee, you would let NCAAS know and they would assign. The next item from NCAAS was also a correspondence about the changes in exams for the next session. They have new specifications for each exam, what you can take in, what you can do, and how they're going to run it. So that's a bit of information for any applicant proposing to take an exam. The third item of correspondence we had with item A3, another request for those interested in participating in a committee. This happened to be for control systems. So they create a committee of experts to participate in preparing exam questions and then evaluating the previous question bank. So if anybody has interest in participating in a committee, please advise NCAAS. The next item of business is a review of our minutes from January 7th. Bob, Don, and Al were not present, but the rest of us were. So are there any comments or changes suggested for the minutes as presented? You recall that we had an extensive discussion with Trip Whalen about the mutual recognition agreement between the UK and NCAAS. It was a pretty healthy discussion about the status and the requirements or obligations therein. Having said that, I didn't notice any changes that should be made unless someone noticed something. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I just noted that Ryan Thompson, isn't he a PELS? I think it just said LS.
Yeah, I am a PELS, but I only sit on the LS
like if on this board, I'm only in the LS role. So
Oh, okay.
they don't indicate the PELS on there.
Got it.
But thank you, Susan.
He has several or multiple qualifications, but in this case, he's appointed as the land surveyor. And we welcome, as in every other aspect of our activities, our board attorney has advised us that we can accept, listen to, and take advantage of the experience of any of the board members in any facet of our discussion. So Brian is often asked and appreciated for his input as an engineer. So is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Is that Robert?
Second.
Don?
Yes, sir.
Doan?
Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. All those in favor of the motion to accept the minutes as presented from January 7th, 2025, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Now, the first item of business on our regular agenda was the reconsideration of 3 applicants for Class 4 reciprocity. First applicant was Roy Karuba, reviewed by Rob Lewandowski.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, Tony, I don't know that I was aware we're gonna re-review them, but I did hustle this morning and try to revisit his application, because this was 2 meetings ago where I reviewed his application and made some recommendations. I just assumed that you guys had come up with some solution for this application. But my concern of his application 2 months ago was the violations, and the first concern was there was a summary attached to his application that highlighted 4 citations and talked about them, but we didn't know who it was from, like who gave us this letter. So since then, Jane Hardy's communicated with Roy Karuba, and the letter was actually from Roy himself. So he has since resubmitted it and signed it. So we have actually, let me back up for a second here. If you go through his application, he checks all the boxes. Okay, but when you go through his application in one section highlights 3 violations with dates. And then there was an attached letter that has another 4 violations with dates and explanations. So my concern at the time was the violations and understanding them, who explained the violations and just the sheer magnitude of the violations. So since then, 4 of the violations that were in the letter have been explained, that those were explained or justified by Roy Karuba himself. I just talked to Jane Hardy this morning, and there's 3 more that are highlighted in the application. That are they 3 additional? Do they coincide with these 4 that are on this sheet? So I think in the end, unless anybody else has done more digging on this or reading on this, in the end, I think I'd like to table it for another month and ask Jane, you're on here, Jane, right? And ask Jane to reach out to him and explain the 3 violations that are listed in his application and tell us what they are, explain them further, or tell us that they coincide with the 4 that are on the sheet, just so that we have a clear vision of this person's background. And these violations, at least the 4 here, span from 1994 all the way to 2018. So it's been a lot of years with a lot of violations. And I
Are
think
they all in one jurisdiction or in various locations?
various locations, various
Yeah.
states. Yeah.
So I agree with the suggestion to table, because we don't have enough information, and the violations are significant. And as far as NCAAS goes, there's a notice process, and everybody should be able to see where they were issued and why they were issued and how they were resolved. Sometimes, issues may be like we see from Janita this morning. They're claims but never substantiated. In this case, I think we have to find out more. So we can go to NCAAS and we can ask the applicant also to expand on the situation on each one.
If we could get an NCS explanation or report on each, that would be even better. Because right now we have a letter from Roy explaining them, right? But, you know, that may not be the full story. It may or may not be. I don't know. So, yeah, if we could get an NCS explanation and an explanation of the other three that are on the application, and at least we understand hopefully the truth of what happened and make a decision.
So the motion might be to table pending a receipt of additional information as to the background and resolution of the violations, the circumstances around them, and how they were resolved, if they were.
Correct. All 7 of them. All 7 violations, 3 in the application and 4 on a separate letter.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, John. Is there any further discussion about tabling this application for reconsideration of Class 4 reciprocity? If not, all those in favor of the motion to table, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. These reconsiderations are difficult for us, and I think that we have to move, as Rob suggested, very carefully and fairly and consistently with other decisions that we've made. Having said that, the next application for reconsideration was Brandon Rexford that Bob Doan reviewed.
Yes, we denied because of the lack of, or excuse me, I wanted the education evaluated. And he has a technical, civil engineering technical degree from University of Maine. And with the information, additional information that James sent me, I went through the transcript, and I will now make a motion to approve. He has the appropriate experience for a technical degree in engineering. He also has a master's from Northeastern, but the courses at Northeastern, the masters really don't benefit his degree. They're more in project risk management, etc. It's really not engineering courses.
So
in any event,
the summation is that he has the education background, has been evaluated, he has the experience to justify, and he also has a master's.
yes. Mm-hmm.
So is your motion to approve?
Yes.
We can approve reciprocity for Brandon Rexford.
That's, yes, so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Richard. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve reciprocity for Brandon Rexford, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And the next applicant for reconsideration was William Sandbo, reviewed by Ryan Thompson.
So the last month when we discussed Mr. Sandbo, I had explained that he has an undergrad in physics. Let me just open up my, an undergrad in physics. He does have 16 years of experience. He is licensed in multiple other jurisdictions. He's got a graduate degree from Cornell in structural engineering. And the issues that were discussed, or the one issue that was discussed, is that it was not a engineering undergrad. He has since submitted a supplemental some supplemental information where he explains that he also did some courses at the University of Portland. Hold on. Let's open up the right one here. Portland State University, sorry. It was post-baccalaureate information coursework that did not result in a degree. And he attached those transcripts, which is a significant structural engineering coursework. And that wasn't actually a part of the original application. Just want to make sure that that's clear. That particular transcript wasn't there. So the question still remains: is it sufficient for the requirement of the undergrad engineering degree? I know John DeWolf, you had some comments. You want to share them?
Yes. First of all, I have the same master's degree that he does. Of course, mine goes back many more years before his. My problem is there's no breadth. If you look at the ABET requirements for an undergraduate engineering degree, you don't just specialize in one area. And all this fellow has done is specialized in one area. You need breadth. It's very important. I've been through many accreditations at the university, and you have to establish that you don't just do structures, you do water resources, you do environmental, you do transportation, geotechnical. And beyond that, you do some work in electrical engineering and mechanical engineering. So the breadth is very important. And that's the problem I'm having with NCEES. When they evaluate these, all they do is total up how many engineering courses there are. They never look at the breadth requirement. And this is the same guy falls into that problem. It's all structures. And it's good structures. There's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't, to me, equate to a 4-year undergraduate engineering degree.
So what the difficulty we have on these types of applications is that we need and have been consistent with our policy, which is to have the undergraduate degree be compliant with our national model law that we subscribe to in NCEES, so that there is consistency between applicants in various jurisdictions. So I know I see that Mr. Sandbo is here. Would you like to join in on a conversation and some comments?
Yeah, sure. No, thank you for having me. And kind of the story is, I don't want to regurgitate all the information, but from Willamette, I have my physics undergraduate degree, which, in my opinion, does provide some of the breadth. They might not be labeled as the engineering courses, but I took all the traditional physics undergraduate degrees. And then as I applied to get my master's, or to attend Cornell to get my Master of Engineering, my MEng, they said you need to take this undergraduate engineering degree prerequisites. And so that accounted for the 1 year at Portland State, where I took some of the required civil undergraduate work. And then I went to Cornell and got my MEng, and then I've since, been allowed to sit and take the FE exam, the PE exam, and the SE exam, and then practice successfully for 17 years, 15 as a PE, 15 in Washington, and then multiple years in multiple other states. And so I guess short of going back to school, which is not going to happen with for a number of reasons, I don't see how I would be able to get licensure in your jurisdiction. And so I don't have any blemishes or notes on my record. I've been practicing, very successfully for over a decade, and not to toot my own horn, but it seems like applicants like me are people that you do want to have practicing in your state.
William, one of the most difficult problem for us is that for 25 years or so, we've been dedicated, if you will, to the consistency in requiring every applicant to have had that basic undergraduate degree that provides the breadth that John DeWolf, our member, structural member, and former professor has mentioned. So our consistency is important to all those applicants who have come forward and suffered the same, for lack of a better word, the same result. So our primary concern is to be consistent. And I would certainly be one to recognize your expertise and your abilities and your dedicated field. But in regard to the consistency with all the other applicants that have had the same problem, we find that it's difficult for us to approve one that doesn't have that undergraduate degree. We've had many applicants that come in and have a similar situation, go off and take a master's in environmental engineering, but they don't have all the other background information, education, and therefore we don't find them to be consistent with our regulations and our policy. So it's a very difficult decision for us as a board, but it's one that we have to make consistent with our prior actions. Do we have any other comments from our board members?
Being a structural engineer and recognizing the difficulties that he's having, he could always do engineering in the state of Connecticut. It's just that he wouldn't be able to sign and seal his own drawings. He could, have a supplemental mentor or advisor that would be able to sign and seal the drawings. And I'm not sure if that's any consolation, but
that's kind of the issue. I am the supervisor at my company, and I am the principal at I manage the project managers and the folks who are doing the work, and I do the QA QC. So, we have a client who works in multiple states, and we're trying to get our licensure so we can continue to provide service to this client.
Mhm.
And
well, like you said, it's still possible that you can do all the quality control, you can do all the reviews, and you can make sure that, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And as long as you have another engineer who's licensed in the state of Connecticut, he could always sign and seal those drawings for your company, regardless of, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, one person sign, I work in an office where we have, 5 engineers that all have seals and we're all signing each other's drawings and doing, whatever needs to be done in order to, keep clients happy. So in that vein, you could always, still do the same amount of work. And as long as one of those engineers is registered in the state of Connecticut, it doesn't necessarily have to be the head guy. He's more or less a figurehead, but, he could still do the work that needs to be done and, ensure that the quality is there. But, that's, somebody else, has their name on it. I'm not sure that it has to be a certain name on a document every single time in order for everybody to feel comfortable. But
no, it doesn't. I apologize. I don't remember if this was Rhode Island or Connecticut, but I think one of the reasons I applied for Connecticut is that there had to be someone with responsible charge to be licensed in the state, and that would be me and my company. And if I'm confounding this with Rhode Island or a different state, I apologize. But I think we did have a license in Connecticut. I can check, but it's neither here nor there. And so that was one of the reasons, because I am a principal and I do have the authority to sign from more of a business standpoint, not a business licensing standpoint, not a professional engineering standpoint.
Bill, is Peterson Associates or the firm licensed in Connecticut?
We should be. I don't, and we, you know, either if we're not, we would be getting licensed after, you know, we have a reason to, because we have licensure.
Well, I think that's also something that you want to pursue, to have the
Yeah.
firm registered.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I agree. And, you know, we take all those steps to make sure that we're, you know, doing business, you know, correctly, and then following all the rules that are set out by the state. But the first step for us was to get this professional licensure so we could practice on a technical level.
John, you have any other comments?
No,
Well, I mean, it sounds like it's, oh, sorry, I thought you asked me, but, sounds like Connecticut's been pretty strict on this in the past, and I guess I would ask you to consider in the future, you know, are these, in my opinion, technicalities of following those rules? Is it adding to the quality of people who practice engineering in Connecticut? And then, why do other, you know, why have I been able to get licensed in, you know, 8 or 9 other states? You know,
we have been following the National Model Code. That is our basis, and other states are making exceptions. We used to make exceptions back 30 years ago when I first came on the board, but it became clear with the advent of most work being done on the computers and stuff that we found it was very difficult to make exceptions. It's very difficult to evaluate applications that don't follow the model law. And I mean, you've got great background. I certainly, your master's is, I think, great, because I did it back in the 60s. But the breadth is important. You work on projects and you need some breadth. You don't necessarily do practice in a bunch of different areas, but you need the breadth to understand how your work fits in with the overall.
and there's not a experience option to get licensure in Connecticut.
We find it very difficult to use experience to replace the 4-year engineering degree, just as we find it very difficult to use experience to replace either of the exams.
John,
We've sort of taken the safety approach, where we're in business to assure the safety of the people of Connecticut. And therefore, we feel that this model law is the way to do that.
John, I have a question for you with regard to the breadth information. You know, so in just when a young engineer with just a few years experience, that certainly having an undergraduate degree that goes into all these other areas makes a lot of sense. But when you have somebody who's got, you know, like Mr. Sandbo here, and, you know, potentially other applicants we've talked about in the past that have, you know, a decade and a half of experience successfully designing, you know, structures, it would seem to reason that during the course of those 15 years, they've been exposed to other aspects of engineering and the you know, the integration of their work with the soils design, and their work with the drainage, you know, engineers, and you know, having to cite everything correctly. And so it seems like there should be some ability to consider that for more seasoned engineers, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that?
The question is how to evaluate it, because we do, in the law, it says you can replace some of the requirements with experience if it's equivalent. The problem is, how do you determine it's equivalent?
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, in today's age where it all is done on the computer, I mean, more people can do stuff than in the past. But to me, it's very scary to think about people who don't have that breadth.
John and Ryan, how short of breath are we? Is it the entire breadth or is it partial? I haven't seen the application, so.
Yeah, I can give you a little summary of some of the coursework in the physics degree here, and then I'll give you a summary of the supplemental work that he did at Portland State. So essentially, for his physics degree, and I'm just going to try to hit some of the highlights. So he's got, linear algebra. He's got modern physics. Let's see, something called mechanics, which is a physics.
I think that the question was what courses were
Economics.
taken at Portland as to whether or not they came across. So in
Right.
regard to that, Portland was masonry design, structural dynamics, earthquake engineering, applied statistics, soil class properties. There was some structural work, of course, some vibration, strength of materials, statics. So things like if thermodynamics was included in the core course, typically from an undergraduate course, then perhaps you could consider that that wasn't appropriate or necessary at this point. But as an educator, John has the best feel for what should be in the undergraduate curriculum. We rely on that information. I think there's also some consideration that should be made for the extensive experience that an individual like Mr. Sandbo has in structural engineering. But overriding for all the past applicants that have come in the same situation, and there have been hundreds, we have to stay consistent with that policy, because as we've discussed so many times, it's unfair to those who have come before and had the same situation. We need to make a decision, or we can table it for further consideration. We have another meeting on March 11th. It's something we can think about and then discuss again as a group on March 11th.
I don't think I don't want to speak out of turn, but I don't believe tabling is going to change any of the facts at this point. So I think that we, I would recommend that we make a motion to either approve or deny, or uphold the previous decision.
Brian, you made the initial evaluation and you reconsidered it. So would you make the motion?
Yeah, I mean, based on, I just want to put it on the record. I think that we do need to consider a change in the future, but for Mr. Sandbo, given the facts is that he doesn't have an undergraduate engineering degree, and to be consistent with the findings of this board, I recommend that we maintain the disapproval.
There's a second to that motion to restate our original decision. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor then of the motion to restate our prior determination to deny reciprocity for Mr. William Sandbo due to the lack of a qualifying undergraduate degree. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. I'm sorry, Bill, but I think the overriding concern is the consistency, and we've definitely maintained that consistency throughout our decisions.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. Thank you for your time. If I'm done, I'm going to drop off.
Thank you, Bill.
Good luck. Okay. This is, I just want to add another point. This is where I come in, I have problems with giving those from the United Kingdom reciprocity, because all they are being tested on after they get their undergraduate degree is their experience in their particular technical area. There is no exam to test breadth. There is no, it's just so limited. And I really like what Tony said about we need to be consistent.
We've said it so many times that I think it's important that we continue that. It's been said, I think at least 100 times, but it's a matter of being fair, if not for lack of a better term, to everybody that has come before in the same situation. And only a few times have we determined that the extra courses really did fill in the gaps. So,
You know,
all right.
and you know, and although I disagree with what we're doing, but I have to also agree with the fact that, you know, if you wanted to do engineering, you should definitely get the background of an engineer in order to do engineering. And, you know, if you made a poor decision and you went into a physics degree, you should get your, you know, your engineering degree to you know, you just can't disguise it or put a costume on it and say, you know, I'm an engineer now, even though I don't even have an engineering degree. And as much as it pains me not to give Mr. Sambo, you know, like you said, you know, if all he needs is a seal, then, you know, anybody in his office can seal it. It doesn't necessarily have to be him. And, you know, and with that, you know, in mind, you know, unless he's on a head trip where, you know, he needs to be constantly in charge and, you know, needs that recognition, but he has to recognize the fact that he does not have an engineering degree, and that's the basis for becoming an engineer. And
I concur.
And, you know, and as much as I disagree with what we're saying, I have to agree with when you look at the premise of what we're trying to protect and do.
Right. All right. I think that we've reconfirmed or confirmed our prior policy, and I think we have to stay consistent. So in the interest of time, I'd like to move on to our land surveying items and those applications for Ryan, who has another appointment shortly. So I'd like to move on to that. So let's move, if we may, to page 2 of our supplemental agenda. And Ryan Thompson reviewed applicants for Class 4 reciprocity, Amanula through Frederick on page 2 of the supplemental agenda.
Yes, so I recommend approval of Chateau through Craig. They were all model law except for Chin and Bishop, but those two are certainly acceptable. The Chin has a PhD in civil engineering from, he has a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD in civil engineering from a institution in China, which has been deemed acceptable or reviewed by the NCES.
Evaluated.
Yeah, evaluated. That's the term I'm looking for. Mr. Bishop is not model law because he had a disciplinary action in Tennessee where he did not renew his license within the time frame. He paid a fine of $500, and he is currently still, they've reinstated his license. He's currently licensed there. That's the only reason why he is not model law. So Chateau through Craig all recommend approval. I guess I'll let you make a motion for that first.
Well, you make the motion. You
All right.
you reviewed, yeah.
I'll make
So
a motion.
right now you're just taking Bishop, Chateau, and Chen. Or,
No,
excuse me, Bishop through Craig, 4
No,
applicants.
Chateau through Craig.
Okay,
Yep.
so motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve all of them.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
All right, and then David Arabia. He does, it doesn't show that he has a current license. It's his New Jersey license expired in April 2024. So I would make a motion that we approve him, assuming, or once it's confirmed that he has a current license.
Second,
Okay.
Second.
So you want to make an individual motion?
Yeah.
Or,
For David Arabia,
okay,
I make a motion that we approve him as long as he is confirmed that he has a valid license in New Jersey.
the second.
I second it, yep.
Oh, thank you, John. All those in favor of the motion to approve Arabia, subject to verification, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
And that should be all of my engineering ones. And now we just have to talk about the surveyors.
But wait, didn't we have Amanula, Amato, Arabia, Dow, and Frederick?
Hold on.
Yes. And Bishop.
Well, no,
Well, Bishop-
yeah, hold on. Chato, Chin, Frederick, Bishop, Amanula, Douse, Amato, and Craig were all the ones that I said in the first group. They were all model law except for Chin and
Right,
Bishop.
okay,
Yeah, sorry if I wasn't clear. I meant that all of them should be approved.
okay. All right, let's do it again then. So.
Okay.
You have a motion to approve Amanula, Amato, Arabia, Bishop, Chato, Chen, Craig, Dow, and Frederick, all for reciprocity with the condition that we verify current licensure for David Arabia.
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second that.
Yes, thank you, John. All those in favor of the motion to approve all from Amanula through Frederick, subject to approval, subject to confirmation of a license for Arabia, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Sorry for the confusion.
Yeah, sorry, I had them in
It's
the
okay.
wrong order.
That's all right. So then we have 3 applicants for Class 8 exam reviewed by the land surveyor members, Beck, Maury, and Robinson on page 6 of our regular agenda.
So I looked at all of them, and I didn't see any issues. I recommend approval.
I'll
know
second
if-
that.
Susan or, yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
With Beck, I was a little confused. He has 12 years, 6 months experience, 11 years, 5 months as a subordinate, and 1 year, 1 month in responsible charge. So I think people maybe aren't getting how to fill that out.
It's a terrible application, in my opinion. It needs to be reworked, Susan.
Okay, we'll have to find somebody to do that. Just kidding.
And I know you're working on it, so that's a
Yes, I
good
am.
thing. So-
Um,
The
I
fact
did
is, the
notice-
experience is there, and there's nothing drastic to say no. Is there any further discussion? Been moved and seconded to approve Beck, Maury, and Robinson. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And we have one more applicant for surveying, Edwin Michaud, for Class 14 license.
Again,
it's good to me.
I recommend approval on this one.
Second.
Thank you, Robert. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. I believe that completes the surveying items, unless I missed something. All right, and if that's the case, then thank you, surveyors, and we'll move on to our regular agenda for current applicants. And to that end, we had one
Great,
more
thank
item
you.
of, thank you, Susan, thank you.
Thank you,
Ryan.
guys.
We'll see you.
Thank you, Bob.
Have a good month.
Bye, have a great day.
As a matter of notice, we had a list of candidates who took and passed the CBT exams, mechanical, electrical, civil. Those are of information on page 3 of our regular agenda. The next group of applicants was for Class 1 exam credit part 1, which John DeWolf reviewed on page 3 and the top of page 4. Oh, excuse me, no, just on
Tony?
page 3. Yes,
Can I interrupt you for a minute?
yes,
Under the old business, you still have the reconsideration for the class 1 credit part 1.
I missed it. Okay. Let's see.
Was added.
Where are we?
I was on page 3 of our regular agenda,
Right.
Class 1 credit part 1. I didn't see a reconsideration. Where is that?
So that was under, we had the 3 class 4s, then there was supposed to be the discussion about the UK MRA, and then C3 was Natalia Close.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's not what I have on my agenda, but.
Yeah, I don't have it neither.
Yeah, I don't,
Okay,
I don't
'cause
have
it
it
was
either.
Oh, I'm
added.
sorry. You know what? You're absolutely right. On page 2 of our agenda, we had a discussion regarding the United Kingdom MRA. I don't think there's anything to discuss. We basically had the discussion a few moments ago when John voiced his opinion, and I agree with it, and everybody else can chime in, that we don't have to support it, and we'll take it on an individual basis of an individual when they come to present their qualifications. We don't have to support the UK MRA. And if we have to make a motion about that, then we can do so. I thought at our last meeting, we were comfortable that we had discussed it and we don't have to make a formal decision. But if Jane is telling me that we have to, then we should do it today. Jane, any opinion on that? Because you're muted.
No, I know at the last meeting, I thought you wanted to add it so you can make a formal decision. I thought, but whatever you want to do is fine with me.
Let's make a motion. John, you want to make the motion?
I'm trying to word it. Basically, we feel that the 4-year undergraduate engineering degree, both exams and the experience should be the basis for consideration for all applicants.
Correct. If I may add some discussion, that's a good motion, thank you. And then the idea is that we can evaluate, or NCSS can evaluate the education of the individual from the UK. If you want that to be education background, that's fine. Then take the 2 exams and we're all equal again. So that's really the way we're going to look at it. It's really coming down to, we want to increase the potential for individuals in the UK to come to US and work. If that's the case, fine. You have the education, that's fine. You may be qualified by your standards in the UK. Prove it over here, take the 2 exams. That's really the bottom line that we're discussing. If we agree to that, then is there a second to that motion?
I'll second John's motion.
I mean, Tony, really, all you're saying is you want to treat them the same way you're treating a US applicant.
Mr. Sandbo, exactly.
Any application,
Any application, we have one criteria, we're gonna apply it to everybody.
That's
any
exactly right.
any foreign degree or anything. Yeah.
Yes. So with the motion to confirm our position that every applicant to the state of Connecticut for licensure must have the education background and pass the 2 exams established by NCSS. If that's a good motion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
You know, I'm going to add a little levity to our discussion here in terms of, I have a comic strip And I think it's, I forget which one it is, but there's a character that says, geez, I'm sick of the job I'm doing. I need a change of venue. And she goes over to an engineer and she says, hey, Dilbert, teach me how to be an engineer. I don't care if it takes all afternoon, type of thing. So,
I remember that, I think. I've seen something like that.
yeah, so it's like, she's tired of what she's doing, but she wants to be an engineer. She doesn't care if it takes all afternoon for him to teach her how to do it. So, but anyways, and that's really what we're saying is that, if you want to be an engineer, you got to be an engineer, and as hard as that's to swallow, it's part of life.
It's a little more on that, and we need to be consistent in what we do.
Right.
If we're not, okay, then we've got a problem for ourselves.
And,
Yes.
and what Rich said earlier with respect to our applicant is true. You can still come and do engineering here. You just can't be the final signature on it. You need to do it under somebody who is licensed.
And that firm wasn't registered yet, so they have a few details to work out.
Yep.
All right, so the next group of applicants was Class 1 exam credit part 1, and John DeWolf reviewed them amio through Visser on page 3.
Tony, excuse me, we still have to do that reconsideration for the class 1. John, you reviewed that one? Natalia, close?
I'm sorry. I've got a bunch of different ones. Which one? Class 1, credit 1 for close.
Yes. She was
Okay, I
missing
don't
her
know where that is,
education
but-
form and
I'm a little annoyed with close. Can't fill out the form. If you look under education, University of Connecticut, Storrs, Connecticut is the school. Attendance status, graduated. Total hours 0. That's all I put on the form. Am I missing something? I know the form splits at the page, at the bottom of the page, but that's not adequately filling in the form.
I thought it was fine. Let me see if I can find it quick.
It is, and I will confess, it is fine because I have the verification of education form, which is a Bachelor of Science in Engineering, Environmental Engineering from UConn. So that's correct. I'm just annoyed that this guy, or I don't know whether it was male or female, she didn't fill the form out properly. But in order to save you time, Jane, I'll move approval.
Okay. I don't have it on my agenda, I'm sorry, so I don't know where it comes up, but it's an individual named Close for reinstatement, you say?
Reconsideration, Class 1, credit part 1.
Okay, I don't have it on my agenda, I'm sorry, I don't know where it was or where it
No,
should be, but
I don't know where it is on the agenda either, but everything is okay, except the person couldn't fill the form in properly.
all right, so there's a motion to approve Close for reinstatement.
No, for
For reciprocity.
Class 1, credit part 1.
Oh, okay, Class 1 credit part 1. Okay. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion to approve Close for reconsideration of Class 1 credit part 1? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. All right, that may be what we needed to catch up on. Now we're on page 3. Permit Class 1 exam credit part 1. John DeWolf reviewed amio through Visser.
Okay, amio, I'm having a problem with. Under education, the degree, well, the form work for the degree shows, and it's a transcript from the University of New Haven shows that the degree was awarded on January 15th, 2023. And then in the actual application under school, University of New Haven, it says August 2017 to July 2020, and it does give the degree as 2023. And then he's put a note in, and it says, I finished my credit at UNH during summer 2020. Due to some confusion that if one of the classes already taken had counted towards my graduation requirements, my grad date was pushed to 2023 when the issue was resolved in lieu of 2020. I'm not clear
If that's
exactly.
if that's the case, it should have shown up on the registrar's confirmation.
Did he complete all coursework in the summer of 2020? I'm not sure. That's the question. I guess if he completed all coursework and it was a clerical problem, I would move approval. But if not knowing that, I'm going to move that we deny until he can answer the question, when was the coursework completed?
And that would have to come from the registrar.
Why was the
So he
degree
did-
held?
If I can interrupt again.
Sure,
He
go
did
ahead.
complete it in 2020. I guess there was some sort of issue. And then with COVID, he got pushed out, but he did complete it in 2020.
Okay, that's good enough for me. I'll move approval.
Okay. So is that for Amio through Visser?
I will move approval of Amio through Visser.
I'll second.
Thank you, Al. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve Amio through Visser for Class 1 exam credit part 1, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. John DeWolf reviewed Mr. Patel for Class 2 exam credit part 1.
Foreign bachelor's, and he has a graduate degree from Marshall University, which I don't know. But it was evaluated. He's missing 3 hours of science and 1 hour of general ed. But otherwise, everything looks good. So I move approval for Class 2 credit part 1.
Thank you, sir. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Robert. All those in favor of the motion to approve Mr. Patel for Class 2 credit part 1, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. I reviewed the next group of applicants, Accord through Blocker, all of them model law engineers. One of them, Mr. Joshua Blocker, is involved in the rocket. I call him Rocket Man because he designed major portions of the catcher for the rocket landing in Texas. I'm pretty impressed. And some of these applicants and the masters in the degrees they take with literally straight A's, it's absolutely amazing to me. But regardless, I move to approve Accord through Blocker for Class 4 reciprocity. Is there a second to my motion?
I'll second.
Who said that?
Rob.
Thank you, Rob. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And then Bob Doan reviewed the next group, Bogdani through Gonzalez for Class 4 reciprocity.
Okay, Feinstein has a foreign degree, got evaluated. He's missing 6 hours in general ed, so I overlooked that. Everything else looks good. We need to, for Gones, we need to verify a current license. And I make a motion to approve the entire group with that condition that we verify a current license for Gones.
there a second to that motion?
Second.
A second.
Oh,
I don't even know who seconded it, but I'll put down.
Al.
who's-
Al, let Al, yep.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Al.
Al
Al.
did.
Show you I'm
All
still
those in
awake.
favor of the motion to approve Bogdani through Gonzalez for Class 4 reciprocity, subject to verification of Mr. William Gomes, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Rob Lewandowski reviewed Gracia through Howell on page 4 and Jetner through Pasquini on page 5 for Class 4 reciprocity.
All right, so I reviewed all of them except for 2 are model law. Richard Kozowski, and why he's not model law, I don't know. He's an older applicant. He has one of the, let's call it the old school applications, you know, the old handwritten ones versus the newer ones. So I don't know if it's just the age of the application. So, but I couldn't find any reason why he's not model law. And then Christopher Lashley is not model law because of foreign degree, which was I should say foreign degrees because he's got a bachelor's, master's, and PhD. NCS evaluated as equivalent. They all have good degrees. They all have good experience, all good licenses. So I recommend approval for all of them.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bob. All those in favor of the motion to approve Gracia through Howell and Jetner through Pasquini, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And Richard Swezak reviewed the next group of Class 4 reciprocity applicants, Preetrazak through Thies on page 5 of our regular agenda.
Okay, initially I'm going to single out Scott Simpson, who has a bachelor's in environmental science from Northeastern. And it's not environmental science engineering, it's environmental science. And, you know, I looked at the degree and I don't believe it has very many engineering classes in it. And he does have a master's from Northeastern in, you know, civil engineering, but he does not have the bachelor's in engineering, you know, accredited subjects. So he is non-model law. And I'll make a motion that we do not approve his application due to the fact that he is lacking an engineering degree.
There's a second?
I'll second.
Second. Oh, okay.
Who's that? Bob Doan? All those in favor of the motion to deny reciprocity for Scott Simpson due to the lack of a qualifying undergraduate engineering degree, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
Okay, for the remainder, they're all model law except Mr. Ryan Roberts, who has a technical degree, but he has 9 years of experience. And then Robert Schubert, who has a technical degree and he has 7 plus a little bit more of years of experience. So I'll make a motion that we accept, you know, the remainder of the applications.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Who was the second one you listed, though, that was non-model law, Richard?
Robert Schubert.
Roberts and who else?
Yeah, Roberts and Schubert.
Schubert. Okay, thank you.
They're technical degrees, but they have at least 7 years of experience.
Yeah. Okay. So all those in favor of the motion to approve Preetrazak through Simone and Slavins through Thies, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. The next group of applicants for Class 4 reciprocity reviewed by John DeWolf are Watson through Wright on page 5 and Wobolewski through Zink on page 6.
Okay, the only one I want to note is Rebecca Watt received, and it's called a GREE board order from the state of Texas. And the GREE board order, and she cites the case number. She had a drawing that was released from her control, an engineering design drawing, which did not contain her signature and seal, nor a caveat indicating that engineering design drawing was preliminary. And so she violated findings, and it cites the numbers and stuff, but I don't think there's a problem there. She just said some drawing got released without her signature. But other than that, I will move approval of the full group, including Rebecca Watt.
Is there a second? Thank you. Whoever was watching that passage of the preliminary drawing getting out of the office, I mean, whoever decided it was a significant violation is on their toes. And we all, I'm certain that anybody practicing is guilty of it at some time.
Yeah.
And having said that,
You keep
we all
track.
try to be careful, but it's almost impossible.
It's,
Yeah.
Therefore, all those in favor of the motion to approve Watson through Wright and Wobleski through Zink for reciprocity, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. The next item of business is to approve the Class 9 licenses for a variety of applicants and universities, which is good to know that the exam is being taken and passed. Is there a motion to approve those applicants? Or
So
those
moved.
licensees?
so moved.
Robert, who's the
Second.
second? Thank you, Richard. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Sometimes surprised that there's not more, you know,
Mm.
but
Is that because most don't apply to actually get the license?
that may be, I don't know how it correlates to the passing versus the numbers, If you look at the front page, right, what do we have? The number of people that pass the exam. But that's a full exam, Anyway, they don't seem to correlate, but maybe the schools are not, well, most likely the schools aren't pushing it. At some point, I thought there would be more because NCAAS and other states don't care when you take it. You could take it today after one semester if you wished. Whether or not they qualify in Connecticut would not be determined until they apply. Okay, now we have a reinstatement request for Andrus, Bashir, and Hoffman. Bob Doan reviewed all three.
I make a motion to reinstate all three as professional engineers.
I'll
Is there a
second.
Thank you, Al. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
I forgot to mention that one of the reciprocity ones that I did, class 4, one of the guys was 4 years older than I am. It's like, I looked at it and go, oh man, come on.
So young.
Did
That's
you say
so young.
40 or 4?
Four. He's like, he was 78. I'm going, oh my gosh.
That's all right. As far as I'm concerned, having a couple of years on that, the more active you are, the better off you are.
That's right. Absolutely.
So, having
Don't
said
say
that,
that to my wife.
young Rob Lewandowski is going to review the next one, Friedman through Hildebrandt.
Gotcha. All right. All of them model law except for Peter Friedman. Again, I don't know why. It was another old school application. So I don't know. He's 37 years of experience, good degrees, good license, so I don't understand why. So all the other ones are straightforward model law, good degrees, good experience, good licenses. So I recommend approval of all 5.
We're on the supplemental agenda, right?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. That's supplemental agenda, page 2.
Page 2.
Two.
How about page, there's something on page 1.
I'll go back to that. I had it open from Brian Thompson, so we just went forward. So I'll go back to page 1 in a moment. Don't be so impatient, Mr. Swezak.
I didn't review it, as Mr. DeWolf reviewed it, so.
Is there a second to Mr. Lewandowski's timely recommendation? Thank you, Richard, for
Yeah, I'll
that
second.
second.
Okay, I'll second, yes.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor of the approval of Class 4 reciprocity for Friedman? Oh, we have 2 Friedmans?
Yeah. Yes.
So 2 Friedmans, Gallagher, Hammock, and Hildebrand. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. The last group of Class 4 reciprocity applicants on page 2 of our supplemental agenda is Lalone, Pitch, Singh, Sloan, and Zhang, reviewed by Richard Swezak.
Okay, I'm gonna approve all 5 of them. It's Zhang had a degree from China that was deemed equivalent, so. And he does have a bachelor's, I mean, a master's from the New York University in environmental engineering in 2015. So I'll make, with that note, I'll make a motion that we accept all 5 applications.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Robert. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And our last applicant, if I didn't miss one, was Class 1 exam, credit part 1, Sam Warobel, reviewed by John DeWolf.
I move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Rob. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. We had some, what? Yes,
It's just me again. Question. So for John, so the class 2 Patel, so he has a foreign degree, correct? Like, because he's under class 2. So would he, just so that I'm clear, because I may have given some wrong information, I thought he needs 7 years to qualify for the exam.
Who are we talking about?
Patel, the class 2.
top of page 4.
Okay, I have to go back and look.
This was he had a graduate degree from Marshall University. The evaluation was good.
Yeah,
Because I think his undergrad is a foreign degree. And then he had the master's.
Right, so
I apologize, I'm trying to find it.
what was the question, Jane? If he has that, he still has to take the second exam.
Right, but I thought he needs 7 years with the foreign degree.
Is it?
Not if it's equivalent.
Right. It was evaluated as equivalent. That non-graduate is something we don't really use anymore when you have the evaluation of the undergraduate degree.
But I thought with a foreign degree that put you into a class 2.
No, oh, yes, it does, but it's only 4 years required. It's a technical degree that requires extra time.
Also not the foreign, so am I?
Okay,
See,
I found it.
We should probably look at that, Jane, in context again, because again, I think the class 2 is that non-graduate, they call it, because it was a foreign degree. We had no way of evaluating, right? So then it came down to experience. But in reality, any foreign degree that comes to us for regular class 1, class 2, credit part 1, part 2, the degree is evaluated, it's equivalent. He's got 4 years of experience. In this case, he has 7, and he has a master's, so he should be permitted to sit for the exam. So
But I
the
don't
class
think he
two-
doesn't have 7 years.
He doesn't need 7 years if he has an
No, he needs-
evaluated curriculum and 4 years experience after the degree. Right?
Wait a minute. Excuse me. He has 5 years of experience. He only needs 3 with the master's. His foreign degree was equivalent with the exception he was missing 3 hours of biology or chemistry
Yeah.
and 1 hour of general education. So it was basically equivalent. So that means he needs 4 years, but then the master's reduces him to needing 3 years. And he
Right.
has 5.
I think what Jane's concern is that perhaps it shouldn't have been called this class 2 because he is in fact a graduate. It's been evaluated. So it's not a class 2 situation, which is a antiquated section of our regulations right now. We don't use it,
Yeah, okay.
right? Early on, we didn't have a way to evaluate. NCAAS took over the evaluation. There were private services at one time. So the class 2 was the non-graduate saying they put the foreign degrees in that situation. They weren't graduates of our ABET accredited program, but now they're being evaluated. So we really shouldn't be seeing class 2 per se, in my opinion. I don't know if we all agree, but I think that's where we are. So the applicant is entitled to sit for the exam because he has a foreign degree, it was evaluated, and he has experience.
Okay. Thank
Right?
you.
I think that's what's going to be going forward, Jane.
I sympathize, Jane, because the class 2, class 1 even confuses me. I really don't care. Frankly, when I'm doing it, I'm looking for the 4-year degree and whether it's equivalent or not.
Again, I think if we agree as to what I was summarizing, that was the situation when we didn't have the evaluation or the advantage of the evaluation. And I'm with John. I don't go back anymore and look at the category because I'm just looking at the education, the experience, and the model law helps a tremendous amount because you really study the ones that don't get the check mark. You see?
Mhm. Yes.
All right. And that I think concludes all of our business for this month. And then next month on March 11th, there is a hearing. It turns out that it's a surveying hearing. I put that little comment in there about anybody with any expertise or time to listen in the sense of fairness and I guess experience. To sit in would be helpful. We don't know what it is, the hearing, and we won't know anything about it until it's presented to us that day. And the couple that I've been involved in over the years, they give you a format of things you have to say and do, and then we'll see how it goes. And sometimes it turns out that it's really not in our jurisdiction, and it has to be resolved in court. So anybody that can participate, I don't know how long it'll be, and I don't know.
Tony, first
Again,
question, you said hearing or hearings?
Initially, when it came across, Al, they talked about, will you be available for hearings on March 11th?
Right.
And I said, up to around noon, fine, but let us know more about it. Recently, in the last week or so, Jane and I and John were pressing on Rachel to give us more information. I don't know why it took so long. She said, we don't know much about it. Okay, fine. Well, it turned out that it's a surveying issue. And I believe only one, right, Jane? Nothing else has come across it since then?
Yeah, I know as much as you do, which
Yeah.
I don't know much.
Okay,
So
well,
anyway,
do you
there's a
want-
hearing, and
yeah, okay, so it's
she's
one,
asked
not
for
two.
participation. Al, you'd be very helpful. She pointed out, that public members don't have expertise in theoretically in surveying. And John was concerned that as an engineer, should he be participating? And the answer is understanding the professions and the relationship between the engineering and surveying could certainly be helpful. And also, unbiased opinions of the information presented. It's just another jury of sorts. And you listen to the testimony and we make a decision or an evaluation.
Okay.
Hopefully in the next couple of weeks or before the hearing, we'll know more about what's going on and confirm who can attend. Okay?
All right.
Are you ready to do your thing, Mr. Al?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, sir.
Does that
Second,
count for last time too?
what was that?
I missed the session last time.
I know,
Yeah.
we didn't know what to do. We were all fumbling
Yeah,
around.
Yeah,
Nobody stood up.
We never closed.
we hung on for another half hour because trying to figure
Yeah.
out what to do.
All right, Richard, before you hit the
Take
smoke,
care.
you second it?
Bye.
I second it.
All right, all those in favor? Aye,
Aye.
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 thank you. Beware the Ides of March. It's coming.
They're
Yeah.
coming. All right.
Bye.
All right,
See you guys.
thank you.
Okay, bye.
Okay, take care.
Take care.